This is Artful Discourse, your weekly escape into the vibrant world of creativity, culture, and intellectual exploration. I'm your host, Benjamin Kirk, and I invite you to join me on a journey through the rich tapestry of human thought and the beating heart of artistic expression at Fresno State's College of Arts and Humanities. Congratulations to our graduates. Yesterday, hundreds of students walked across the stage at the Save Mart Center and will now move on to the next phase of their lives. And whether they're going out to find jobs in their field or continuing their education, it's amazing to think about the positive impact these graduates will have on their families, the community, society, and democracy. Full disclosure, this show is being recorded with commencement over a week away, and I want to bring this up because one of our guests today is a student who graduated yesterday, but as we record this show, he will graduate next week. Now, a few weeks ago, on April 26th and 27th, 160 students from Fresno State and Clovis North, plus faculty and guest artists, packed the stage at our tiny Fresno State concert hall to perform Carl Orff's Carmina Burana to the sold-out crowd of 270 at both shows. Now, the concert was really powerful. It was amazing, and it was performed in its original Latin. As audiences came into the concert hall, they were handed a beautiful program that included a full translation of Carmina Burana manuscript, which was put together by a team of 38 Latin and German students. While the translations were the core of the project, the team also created an exhibit at the Fresno State Library and a website that contained more information about the manuscript. Now, joining us today is Taylor Boyd. He is a business administration data analytics major who will be graduating or has graduated by the time this show is streamed. And he is also in the Classics Club. Taylor, welcome.
Hi, thanks. It's great to be here.
Now, Taylor, what is your background in classics? You're minoring in classical studies?
Yes, I am. So I'm minoring in classical studies and in humanities, actually. It's when I first transferred to Fresno State, I had a bunch of issues when I transferred where I came from Clovis Community. And I don't know if they lost my transcript or something. I just know that when I first enrolled and was time to look at my classes and what I was going to take, I could not get into anything because it said I didn't have any of the requirements fulfilled. So I took a minute to I sit back, I try to figure it out, and by the time I was able to figure it out, I had barely any options. And so I was scrolling through the GE courses because I was thinking I'll just at least get some of that done. And I ended up actually scrolling and finding Humanities of Ancient Athens. And I saw that and I was like, I've always loved ancient Greek and Roman mythology, history, philosophy. So I just thought, why not try it? So I did, and I fell in love. And since then, I've basically, whenever there's an opportunity for me to take one of those classes, I've always enrolled in them. And then last semester, I believe, I was talking to Christy and we were just going over the fact that I've taken so many of these classes. And Christy was just talking and was like, oh, you can just do the minor. So that's what we decided to do.
Well, there you go. And what a happy accident. You kind of get pigeonholed into something, but it turns out to be something you're passionate about.
Yeah, I am really happy that I ended up doing it. I know I did business because I thought it was I really enjoyed it, but it was also kind of the safer option. And it wasn't really until I got here and I started taking all the courses that I really did find my love and passion in classics. So
All right. Now, also joining us is Dr. Christy Easton, professor of classics and humanities in the Department of Modern and Classical Languages and Literatures. Dr. Easton was the faculty coordinator behind the Carmina Burana project. Is that what you would call it?
Sure.
Okay. And so first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having us.
Now, tell me a bit about Carmina Burana. Why is it significant? What makes it stand out?
Well, it's kind of a complicated story in that I first learned about the performance that Fresno State was going to do in April from the dean, Chapman. She just mentioned it in passing. And I thought, well, there are Latin songs, and we teach Latin, and we have students who read Latin. We should just come together and provide Fresno State translations for a Fresno State performance. And so then in doing more research and thinking kind of more broadly about the project, I thought this is a great opportunity not only to learn about the music and to really study the Latin, but to learn about the manuscript whence the songs came. So whence Carl Orff chose, right, from his selection that was an actual medieval manuscript of over 300 poems, songs, and plays, and he selected 24 from that. So it became kind of a broader project, not just translation, but also let's look at the manuscript, let's learn about manuscripts, and kind of combine the two.
Now, tell me a little bit about the manuscript itself. What's the background of it? What is the manuscript? What does it talk about? What's the story?
So it's famous in its own right, though it has risen to fame really on the coattails of Orff's production. But it's famous because it is this collection of songs and poems and plays, many of which are completely unique. It wasn't cataloged; it wasn't discovered until 1803, just in a collection of uncatalogued manuscripts. And so some of the songs in the vernacular, in Middle High German, in French, most of them are in Latin, but some of them are our oldest surviving, right, extant copies or um, I guess copies of these songs. And so in and of itself, the manuscript is remarkable.
Hmm.
And then it's become famous again, really because of Orff's production.
It really seems to me to kind of capture what it is to be human. Those things that we don't always maybe talk about or celebrate, those things we do talk about and celebrate, but maybe not in written form as much.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the content. So what are the songs and the poems about,
Yeah.
right? That's a really good point. Some of them are sacred, but that was the smaller category. So we have poems of love, poems of drinking, silly poems about sung by a song or a swan, excuse me, who's already been roasted. So there are poems that make connections to Virgil and Ovid, so classical texts as well. But as you said, it's just really trying to access, or the songs are a collection that accesses all aspects of what it means to be human. So the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, but really the fun we have, right? I mean, to me, it's a reflection of the dynamism of the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
right? That you don't kind of imagine when you think of the Middle Ages.
Now, Taylor, you worked on the project. Do you have any insight into this?
Hmm. Let me think. I know Christy did such an amazing job covering it right now.
Mhm.
Um, I just really enjoyed looking into it, studying it, because a lot of times in like my history courses and stuff, we talk a lot about like the classical period and then we talk about the Renaissance and then modern era and everything. But I feel like a lot of my courses, we kind of just completely power through the Middle Ages and don't really talk about it. So a lot of people have like these ideas of what the Middle Ages might be like, but I really did learn more about it by studying this,
Mhm.
which I think is the exact reason why we should be studying stuff like this.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, let's bring it back to the project itself
Mhm.
because it did kind of start off as a translation project for the music production,
Right. And
correct?
yeah, and it was one of those kind of, you think, oh, what a brilliant idea. And then you wonder if anybody really wants to participate, right? Because this is extracurricular. This isn't a Latin class. Students aren't getting credit. So I talked to students about it in passing in classes over the fall, and they sounded enthusiastic. So we met again at the beginning of the semester and talked about what we would do, and students were enthusiastic, and so enthusiastic that they came, right? So I was able to purchase the text. We have this wonderful charitable foundation, the Bertha and John Garabedian Charitable Foundation. So I was able to purchase texts, commentaries for the songs that are specific to the performance and pass those out to students. And then we had to find a time to meet. And I think our first meeting may have been a Friday night or a Sunday night. I mean, everyone's incredibly busy, especially in the spring semester, but students came. and
Wow.
and I had assigned, I think, 7 songs to translate, and everybody did the work, and we sat down and we had about a 3 plus hour session wherein we got through about 2 of the songs. Um, and it wasn't, that we were struggling, but it was the process of translation and this collaborative effort of finding the right word
Hmm.
or keep getting the best syntax. We really wanted to stick as close as we could to the Latin so that we would provide kind of a useful English translation. Our commentary actually had 2 different translations of the songs, but they tended to leave the Latin behind. And we really wanted to provide something in the program that you could use and stay with the Latin as you worked through and listened to the songs. And so, anyway, we 3+ hours in, having gotten through two songs and worked really hard at choosing again the right word for every single word, and having everyone participate in that. I think that was one of the funnest things for me is the way in which all of us together, like some and everyone participated, came up with the perfect word here or there, or the syntax. No, that's better. No, that's better. What if we did it this way? Wait, we could actually reverse the order and still stick to the line by line translation. So we had a great time. I don't know, Taylor, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I know that first meeting we had, it was, I believe, a Saturday night.
Was it?
And I know a lot of people sound like so enthusiastic. Oh, let's come to campus on a Saturday night and do some Latin. But I know we all ended up having so much fun. I know, like, Latin 131T, the Wednesday night courses that we take, it's one of my favorite courses I take. I love just coming in there, sitting down, and just kind of it's we learn a lot, we cover all the work we need to, but we also do have fun while doing it. It's kind of fun listening to how everybody has the different interpretations of, like, what the best, like, translation of its, like, little phrase would be, and that's really the entire, like, story of what that meeting was. It was I know I specifically remember me and Joey sitting there as I think we both had like a thesaurus open on our computers as we were trying to like go through and find the perfect word. Like, oh, do we want to like use young woman? Do we want to use maiden? Do we want to use virgin? What did we want to do? And it just the entire time it was just us sitting there and just thinking what sounds like what would be the best, what sounds the best, what will work the best for the Latin. So
Yeah, and coming back to that same idea, the thesaurus, in terms of English, and then we'd come up with several words, and then think, but wait, now we've moved too far away from the Latin. What is the Latin word again? And so we'd revisit that, and it was just this slow but exciting process that at the end, when I realized we'd only made it through two of the songs, uh, I just thought, oh my goodness, I've completely underestimated how much time we're going to need to translate all of these songs.
And I'll be honest, when I thought about it, because what's amazing to me is you mentioned, is anybody going to be able to work on this? And you have 38 students who apparently are coming in on a Saturday excited to talk about Latin, which is hilarious.
In full disclosure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The students that came in on Saturday, on Friday, on a holiday, I don't remember which one it was. I mean, we just had to scramble to find these times, and they were always
Yeah.
3+hour blocks, right? Are the students that are in my advanced Latin classes, or we do have some recent alumni, right, that had just graduated and just wanted to come and play. So that was really fun. And then we had my Latin 1B students. So I've got 13 students in second semester Latin, and we worked in the class during class time to translate a few of the songs that they were able to manage.
Hmm.
And then I brought those songs back to the collaborative group, and they were wonderful. And then also we have Dr. Begovich's class, our German instructor, and she did the German. Well, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. So we're translating medieval Latin as opposed to classical Latin, like Taylor mentioned, and Latin from the classical period to the medieval period has simplified,
Hmm.
right? So these songs, they're not simple, but right, the Latin itself, the language has simplified. It was the opposite for German, right? So modern German, which our students are learning, right, has simplified from what these songs from the Middle High German that the songs are written in here. So she had to work with her German 2B students kind of backwards,
Mm.
right? So it was more of a project, I think, for them in that sense, and they did all their work in class as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really enlightening because you think about translating. And when I think of translating, and I am not very smart with languages. Let's just put it that. I'm being nice to myself, but when I say this, but when I think of translating, I think about going on to Babelfish or something and typing in something and hitting return and it spitting out something and me hitting the little speaker button to hear how that sounds. Well, that sounds good enough, and putting it in, and obviously half of that's at at worst wrong, at best highly inaccurate, But this is something where you were actually, I mean, it's intriguing that you're actually just getting that specific about the words and really trying to determine what they were trying to say beyond what the words say, it sounds like, to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
Yeah, trying to access as much as we can the original, not just the language, but the sense, right? The
Mhm.
sense of the song. And these are known, the title of the opera, right, by Orff is secular songs or profane songs. So, right, that was another discussion we had too. Can we access, and to what extent do we want to access the so called profanity? It's not horrific, of course, but it's there and it's fun,
Yeah.
right? So that's difficult too, because the Latin word that conveys some sort of meaning, we may not have the precise word in English, right? We make these choices, and something's lost, right? Any sort of uh, profane, perhaps undertone might be lost with our English translation. So we're trying to access that as well.
Mm.
Some of it also is the fact that when we're doing the translations, we want to access the actual like what the Latin was saying, but then we also still do understand that like the audience doesn't know Latin and everything. So we still had to go through our translations and make it so that people that don't know the history and everything would still be able to make sense of it. Because like one of the songs, it has Phoebus, and we know Phoebus is another name for the god Apollo, the Greek god Apollo. And when we were looking at that, we were looking, okay, the purpose of the song is to talk about a sun god. So did we want to keep Phoebus? Did we want to use Apollo? Or do we want to go through and just change to be like Helios, the sun god? Because people are going to automatically recognize Helios as the sun god versus Apollo. They might not actually know what the like background of what he actually represents. So it's a bunch of things like that of keeping in mind like we want to stick to the original Latin, tell the story, but we also do still want to make it something that people can actually use.
Well, and I would say so we had also in the very first song at the very end is a reference to Queen Hecuba.
Mhm.
And some of the students were not familiar with her, right? So that occurred. Okay, what do we do with that? Do we change it, right? So it's a queen who was on top of Fortune's wheel, and then when Troy falls, comes crashing down. Do we change it to a contemporary reference that maybe everyone would know? And I think these discussions really prompt. I mean, we kind of thought, well, maybe we could have just a glossary in the program, but that seemed a little cumbersome, and who's going to read it when they're listening to the
Yeah.
music, right? So that really, I think, was one of the things that prompted the website.
Okay, and this is perfect segue because this is what I wanted to start because the translation is the core of the project, but then these other things came out of it. One being the website, and then the other being the exhibition in the library with the facsimile of Carmina Burana.
Yeah, that was just fortuitous, I suppose, in that. So when we started thinking about the actual manuscript, and I just started doing some research in our library. What do we have on the production? What do we have on the manuscript? And one of the entries was in the special collections department in enology, of all things, and it was a facsimile of the actual manuscript. The manuscript is so rare; you'd have to be a very special scholar to get access to it when you visited the library where it's held in Munich.
Yeah.
So no one ever really gets to see it. Although I will say, in our work that we've been doing, one of our students discovered that the Library of Congress has photographed, scanned the entire manuscript, so you can now access that online, which is amazing. But the codex itself, we have in our library a facsimile of, and it's a very rare facsimile. I think it's about a $1,200 book.
Wow.
Right. It's very precious. But it's here. So I thought, well, let's put that right on a display in the library, which is still there. It's been up for the production and it'll remain through the rest of the semester. And we made, I believe, 6 posters to go along with that to
Hmm.
try and kind of help, since they can't access the manuscript in the locked case, to help them see what was in it and to learn something about manuscripts. What is a manuscript, right? What does it mean to have a scribe and a script and a scriptorum and neumes, musical notations, right, that mark the text? So all of these just ideas to kind of draw students in to learn more about a manuscript generally, but then we have the actual text here. But of course, you can only learn so much staring at at an exhibit, and that combined with this need, really, I think, to define some terms brought about the website.
Right. And at the back of the
Mhm.
program, right after you're done reading all of your wonderful translations, you have the QR code where people could scan it with their phones and bring up this website that has a lot more information on and has the translations on it as well. Now, we will have a link to the website in the show notes for this show on the podcast, and we'll also be doing a story on this on our blog. So this interview we're doing now is going to play into our story on the blog as well, and so and that'll be coming out in our newsletter that's going to drop next week.
Oh,
Um, so we're excited about that. And so you can read all about it on FresnoStateCAH.com. You can look at the website, but let's talk a little bit about the website briefly. Um, yeah, tell me more about it.
well, full disclosure, I think we talked about possibly doing a website. I came to you for some ideas about
Mhm.
posters and this and that and the other, and you said, well, Google Slides is excellent, and you showed me what that looked like. And I had never made a website. And one of our students, Haley Snyder, said, oh, I've done that. I can manage it. And she just came up with that brilliant template. I hope everyone goes and visits it because it's a beautiful website. It really is. And we've incorporated, luckily, again, the Library of Congress had scanned every page, so we were able to really, what, present the
Hmm.
actual manuscript, all of the illuminations, the most famous one, the Wheel of Fortune, right at the beginning, and so on and so forth. And then to bring in other things as well. Our fun facts page has a modern game called Pentiment that deals with manuscripts, medieval manuscripts, and scribes, and so on. And so it was just a way to really broaden what the work we had done, right?
Yeah.
The glossary has corresponding pictures of flora. I think we had a picture of Phoebus, but we were able to leave because we had that website. We decided to leave Phoebus in the translation, right? So we didn't have to change it to Apollo or Helios or right Discord. So that really gave us more leeway in terms of sticking to the original and then just exposing everyone to who Hecuba was, Helen in Paris, and so on and so forth, right? It really was a way to bring depth to what we were doing.
So, Taylor, I have a few questions for you
Okay.
before we wrap up here. The first being is, do you have a favorite memory from this time doing this project, working on this project?
So I think my favorite time was really when we came in and we were working on the tavern song in class, and it's just coming in and sitting down where you were asking like, is everybody ready to like start and everything, and Kenya just when she started talking about the song because she was in charge of coordinating the tavern song, and she just I remember talking to her about it, and she was just talking about how like, oh, like the thing itself, the song was not that like difficult, whatever, because it's just a long list of things. But it was just kind of annoying to go through and translate, and then it was kind of hard to be able to like figure out how do we use that song, and because it's literally just listing things, how do we make the translation look good? But I think that, and then other than that, I think just I don't know if I necessarily have a specific like favorite memory because I really enjoyed the entire time. I love the Latin courses. I love coming and hanging out with all these people, these great people and everything. And so ultimately I just really enjoyed the fact that I basically got 2 classes this semester of it. So,
Right on. I see you opening the
I
book.
was looking at the song that Taylor was referring to, in taberna quando sumus, when we were in the tavern, and anyone is interested in looking it up, is just a long list of who is drinking, and I don't think they left anyone out. And we end up toasting for 3 or 4 stanzas, several, right? The sailors, the monks, the quarrelers, the vagabonds, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and
Yeah.
on. And one of the fun facts that we had on the website about this particular song, and this was identified by Christopher Hamill, de Hamill, in his wonderful book. I highly recommend it, Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts, and he has a chapter on this. But he noted that the most water damaged or stained damaged, moisture damaged page in the manuscript is this song.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? So you need the lyrics when you're in the tavern and you're singing.
All right. So, Taylor, I want to, first of all, congratulate you on graduating yesterday or next week,
Thank you.
depending on where we are in time here. And but I did want to ask you, you're minoring in classics and also humanities as well, right?
Yes. So as I said earlier, we talked about that and we ended up figuring out that that's what like we wanted to do. It's originally we had this like insane idea of I was taking so many of the classical studies courses and everything. We were trying to see if I could be able to double major. And I know I think I technically fulfilled all the requirements for it and everything, but the campus has like rules and everything about graduating double or doing double majors with a special major.
Hmm.
So we ended up doing the minors instead. But yeah, I really enjoy the topics. I don't think I've taken one of these classes that I haven't like absolutely loved.
So let me ask you, how has your involvement in the classics impacted your education, and how do you think it's going to impact your future?
So I it's definitely impacted my education as I loved business and everything, but I think one of the things that you kind of lose is the like creative spark and everything, and you lose some or you aren't able to access some of these like the humanities or whatever and what it means to be human in these business courses because they're a lot of times they're teaching you like just the math or they're teaching you about how it is like to manage a business, manage the company and everything, work with others, which is all great things, really things you should like everybody should know. But I still wanted to be able to take like classics and humanities and everything because I really think it's important to like if you're going to be living in the world, our entire world is based off of what happened in the past, what happened like the Battle of Hastings like we talked about in class. Like our world is completely how it is now because of the past. And so we really need to study it to be able to actually like live in this world to understand how things are.
Now it looks like your major is business administration, data analytics, and I'm just kind of curious, how do you think, because it sounds like you did a lot of analytical work with this. Do you think the humanities helps your analytical thinking, and are you able to tie that to kind of the data side of
I
things as well?
I definitely think I can. I know I was talking to Curtis, Christie's husband, who teaches ancient Greek and then a lot of those classes on campus as well. I was talking to him, and he was actually telling me about how I unknowingly really like placed myself pretty well if I wanted to go into the future and working on the Heracleum scrolls and everything. So maybe I'll pursue that in the future. I don't really quite know, but I definitely think merging the like business and everything with the arts can teach you stuff about like what it like how to work with others, what it means to be human and everything. Like I've been saying, I definitely think it really is going to put me into a place that I think I have something that not to say other people don't have, but I think they everybody would be a little bit better if they take a little time to study some of the humanities, the classics.
Well, time flies when you're having fun. So thank you both for joining us, Dr. Christy Easton and Taylor Boyd. And you can read more about Carmina Burana Project on our blog, FresnoStateCAH.com. Today is the last day of the spring 2024 semester, and our hearts are full. A big thank you to our students for being so amazing here at the College of Arts and Humanities. We wish you the best as you open the next chapter of your lives. Also, a big thank you to our faculty who work tirelessly to teach our students how to make a living and how to make a life. We'll see you next week for another edition of Artful Discourse. Artful Discourse is a production of the College of Arts and Humanities at California State University, Fresno. The Dean is Dr. Honora Chapman, and the Associate Dean is Dr. Sergio Laporta. This program is written, directed, and produced by me, Benjamin Kirk, the college's communication specialist. The theme song for Artful Discourse is Maiden Voyage by Fresno State music professor Benjamin Boone from his album, Joy. More information about his music can be found at benjaminboone.com. Special thanks to KFSR and FSR Underground General Manager Julie Lindahl for making this show possible. You can learn more about the College of Arts and Humanities and find an archive of our shows at our website, cah.fresnostate.edu, or on our blog, FresnoStateCAH.com.